There are significant challenges when you're working through a high asset divorce. Probably the most significant one is the copious quantities of documents that have to do with a high net worth divorce. I mean, there are assets all over the place, or documents that have to do with where they came from, where they go to, how they work. And I guess perhaps as a litigator, my chief concern in all that is trying to identify, locate, discover those documents, because there's such a temptation on the other side to say, documents? What documents? So when you're working with high asset divorces, the thing you most have to be sensitive to, I think, is making sure that you've dotted your I's, crossed your T's, that you have the documents that establish what is reality rather than the fiction that you may be being sold. Dividing assets in a high net worth divorce is not as complicated as you might think. I mean, you're looking at the asset and it's a nice asset. It's a wonderful vase from the Ming Dynasty and it cost a fortune. And it was such a great find when you found it in this obscure place. And so you think that it's special, and it is special, but from the law's standpoint, it's no more special than, say, a watch that you found somewhere, or, the Toyota that you bought 5 years ago. It is a thing. It has a value. The easiest way to think about it is that you take all these things that you agree are marital, you add them all up, you put them on a balance sheet, you say, well, here's the total net worth. And so you go through an equitable division assessment, which basically means equal, right? Unless there's some strong reason to pull it off equal. And then you go back to those items and say, okay, there's $10 million worth of assets in this family. And so this thing wife gets, this thing dad gets, this thing wife gets. And so you can see why it doesn't matter whether this thing is a $1 million thing and this thing is a $750,000 thing versus this thing is a $100 thing and this thing is a $50 thing, right? It's a thing. It has a value. So the temptation is to make it more complex than it really needs to be. You're just adding more zeros to the end of the number. Back in the day, there was a serious limitation on child support, and it made a lot of people crazy. So you could have somebody making a tremendous amount of money and paying very little child support. But those days have gone by the wayside, and now there are no caps on child support. It's a computer program, isn't everything. So there is an automatic cap in the program premised upon $30,000 per month. But that's a known limitation on the program, and the law goes on to say there's a specific deviation for high wage earners that removes that cap. It's just not computer program. It's more human based in determining what that number will be. When it comes to figuring out alimony, I always talk about it compared to child support. Child support is a multi-paragraph, multi-page, very dense statute that tries to get as specific as possible. Alimony is basically 3 paragraphs. It really leaves it up to the judge, and the judge is supposed to be the arbiter of what does society think. So more than anything else, alimony fluctuates with the time. There have been times in my 35 years of practice where there was the thought, this is earlier on the practice, right? We got to take care of the little woman. And so there'd be lifetime alimony, and it would be really healthy, set upon the living in the manner in which she'd become accustomed. There have been times in my practice where society took a much more hostile view to alimony. And it was like, well, you need to get out there and work and take care of yourself. And so alimony was, sometimes you feel it cut to the bone. We're kind of in a more realistic period at the moment. There are no caps on alimony, but it is much more of an assessment. The way in which we approach it is, what do you need to accomplish? What is it that you're wanting to do? How do you want to best use these funds? And basically, the more real, the more of a picture you can paint for how these funds are going to be used and why they're necessary, the more the judge can picture it and see it and feel it and get behind it and award it. But I guess the bottom line is there are no caps on alimony. There is no minimum on alimony. It is somewhat the Wild West when you get into it. If you have any questions about high net worth divorce, give us a call. It's a complicated, thorny issue, but we can sort through it. We look forward to hearing from you.